It's Monday on Your View. Welcome to the show. I am Murayo Afolabi Brown. As always, I never do this alone. I have the ladies with me. Hello. We have Nyma Akasha Zibiri in the building. Woo, 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 woo. Your fans have missed you like Kilo Shele. How you doing? Good to have you back. Almost 2 months.
I must say thank you to the ladies of Your View. You know how to back somebody.
Yeah.
With my grief, I usually prefer to stay alone. I don't take visitors. I lock out family members and grieve.
Yeah.
But you people have stubborn head. You found your way inside. Thank you so much.
Glad to have you back. That. So don't worry, we're going to give you about 10 o'clock. We'll gist with you to know exactly what happened. We'll give you that time because Nyma has so much information and knowledge to share so that we can learn from my experience. And because you hear stories outside, you can always not verify, but we know Nyma and we know that she's not lying and that we know that she's only just doing it because of the right reasons. It's just to share knowledge and to help others. So we'll get your story at 10 o'clock. But talk about how was your weekend?
My weekend, you know, yesterday I was like, this weekend is fantastic. I had planned this month that I wanted to shoot my confidence webinar into a confidence course. And that was my target for the month. And over this weekend, I did the shooting with a friend. And last night, I was watching and I realized I had audio issues. Rayo, hours of recording. I'm going to have to redo it. Oh, wow. So yesterday morning, I was really preparing that, this is my banter. I'm going to say, guys, get ready. By the end of August, I'm going to have the course out. Really? But right now, we're going to have to reshoot everything. But I know that everything happens for a reason. Right. So I'm believing that there are lessons to be learned on the journey, and maybe I should be more involved in what they are producing. Right, that was recording for me, but I'm not so happy about. I really slept late because I just couldn't think. I was like, so I'm going to do that shooting again. But this morning I have a different perspective of let's just be grateful to God for everything. All things work together for good. Yes, exactly.
Even me, I had a very depressing Saturday. You know, I've been reading.
For the exams, what now happened?
I failed. Honestly, I didn't do so well on Saturday. You know, when you see the answer the questions and you're like,
don't say that.
No, I'm not saying that I failed. I'm just saying that I feel like I didn't do the best I could.
Sometimes you do feel that way, and
I was really looking forward. I read.
And then the questions did not follow what you read.
Oh, God,
but you wrote your thoughts.
I'm sure we'll see what for. I was just so scared. Like, what kind of wahala is at this age? You ain't going to use money to go and buy wahala. You know, but
but sometimes it might just, like Nyma said, it might just turn. But you know, there's a feeling you have when you know you aced the exams. Like you know that you read and then you wrote it. But when you know that you read and like what you are seeing.
What was now worse now? I thought that. You know that feeling of, it was all of us generally had issues.
Other people now.
And I got to the grade, it was like, it was fantastic. It was like Amala Negusian.
Don't let that. I remember our bar exams.
No, so I'm praying that you come back with a testimony on this.
You'll be surprised. I remember bar exams where we wrote civil procedure back in law school. Everybody had a different procedure that they used. Only me used my procedure. And the people that used that procedure had to receipt the paper, and I went.
Oh, wow.
So sometimes just write what you think and you're convinced about it. Maybe it's the way you express it.
Okay, I don't care.
Don't worry, go shopping. And they'll be telling you, it was a piece of cake. They'll group up and spoil your mind. Don't let that one.
Anyways, let's go on the break. It's Monday. When we come back, we'll go through the front pages of the paper. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Right, we're going to start with The Nation this morning. On the polls, tension in APC as vote buying rocks PDP. Picture here of anti-face mask wearing protests in London. I looked for that story, I didn't see it. I really wanted to read that. Banks limited debt card spending abroad. AMCON to transfer 5 trillion naira debt to taxpayers. Agency report, Madagascar herb can't treat COVID-19. No foul play in Arotile's death, says Nigerian Air Force. And Buhari wishes virus positive on Nyma. Quick recovery. Okay, let's talk about the Madagascar herb.
So the head of the National Institute for Pharmaceutical Research and Development in Nigeria has written off the Madagascar herb for COVID-19, saying that, you know, they cannot tell us what Madagascar did, but they have done their test. They used rats, they used this. It's a lot of details in the story, that they used and arrived at the fact that this is not a cure for COVID-19. Also, he mentioned that, it could cure cough just like our basic cough syrup. It, suppresses the cough, it does a lot of things, but they have written it off, and then they've given another solution. That the NIPRD have arrived at one that will work for us, that they'll be releasing to us very soon. And I wish it could have been faster. But, they have that in research, and they have done all the clinical and pharmaceutical research that we wanted them to do on the COVID, the Madagascar one, before they released it to Nigerians, and that will be released.
And part of his claims was that the Madagascar government are refusing to, they're hiding the analysis of their own products. According to them, they went online, they checked to see exactly what's the components of this, and they couldn't forget the direct components. So they are hoping that their own version will be able to solve
the story of banks, because currently banks have limited debit card spending, and this is due to what we know, dollar shortage. Some banks actually did not even have ability to fulfill any, big banks couldn't have fulfill any dollar demand over the past week. So generally all the banks, they said they confirmed from 2 big commercial banks that this new development has limited cash withdrawals and even transactions to below $500 in a month. You can't do anything above that in a month because you don't have,
online,
you can't order above $500 in a month. You can't pay for anything above $500 in a month. The banks can't fulfill beyond that because we have dollar shortage due to the fact that crude oil prices have crashed and we don't have any other means of getting dollars into the country.
Okay, moving on now to the Punch. Arotile, police to take over case may charge suspect with manslaughter. Ondo woman conspires with lover to kill ex-boyfriend. New investor taking over MK Abiola Airport in Osun. National Assembly vehicles. Contractors petition Buhari, demand 875 million and threaten the suit. Intrigues. Last-minute alignment as 11 aspirants contest Ondo APC governorship ticket today. And 2020 UTME admission begins August 21, says JAM. Okay, let's take the major headline, the young lady that was killed.
The young Air Force lady, Nigerian Air Force have investigated the cause of her death, and they say they don't suspect any mischief, any foul play, but they have invited the Federal Road Safety to help them look into the circumstances of the death, because the driver of the car at the time does not have a valid driver's license, and they are investigating to see whether there's anything culpable, and if it can be brought under the Federal Road Safety traffic offenses, it would at least get a 7 years manslaughter sentence if he's prosecuted successfully. So they're looking at all they would, prosecute that. On the side of the Nigerian Air Force, they don't suspect any foul play. They were former classmates. They were supposed to be greeting each other at the time when the accident happened. And everybody, every occupant of the car were also classmates of us from Nigerian Air Force Secondary School in back in the days.
Really sad story, because it was almost like it was unintentional. They had no plan to kill her, and it just happened.
But if he doesn't have a valid license,
he shouldn't have been driving.
He shouldn't have been driving. That brings it clearly under manslaughter.
Let's take another. So I was going to take a different story. Oh, National Assembly vehicles. So they've not paid our contractors. There are about 12 contractors are contesting. That's trying to sue. They're threatening to sue.
So there's a human interest that I thought would be interesting, because...
Okay. Let me just finish that story. Okay. So what happened is that since 2017, they had provided the Hilux trucks and the Toyota Camry and all that, and the government hasn't paid them. So it's about 875 million naira worth of vehicles, and they're about to sue the federal government.
I remember one of the representatives saying that the reasons they can't patronize local Nigerian made cars is because they won't extend line of credit. But if the line of credit is supposed to last for 3 years, no business will survive with this kind of line of credit. It's not right.
You want to take the human interest?
The human interest. So the Ondo young lady that ordered her new boyfriend to kill the ex-boyfriend to be able to marry her is beyond me. I couldn't understand motive for marriage being the reason. So they stole the bike of the man and tried to sell it. It was recovered, and at the point the men confessed to her having advised them to kill her ex-boyfriend. Let's
move on now very quickly to Vanguard. Let South have presidency in 2023. Adebayo, Yakasai and Clark say. JAM directs institutions to begin first, second choice admissions August 21. Health, education, others in limbo as debt stock hits 30 trillion naira. Mainland Bridge, FG, Lagos State government begin repair of alternative routes. Terror of satellite town nabbed. Making Obaseki my successor was a mistake, says Oshomole. And NDDC's IMC heads for showdown with Reps Committee Chair Tunji Ojo. So if you recall, last week they wanted them to actually replace the committee, especially the chairman of the committee heading the House of Representatives, the National Assembly Committee heading the probe on the NDDC. But the committee have said that that's not going to happen, that the committee is still going to hold and they're going to continue to investigate this, the NDDC.
So, JAMB,
let's talk about JAMB for a second.
So the JAMB has said that the admission exercise for 2020 and 2021 must continue. It will be conducted on what they call CAPS, a Central Admission Processing Unit. They've tasked the NUC, that's the one for the universities, the National Board for Technical Education, and the National Commission for Colleges and Colleges of Education, the NCC, to continue with using that process that they've given to continue admission this for 2020, starting from August 21. I understand that sometimes the process can lead into the new year. So it's happened before in the past. That should not cause Nigerians to start to have an argument. Yes, admission processes include some form of exams, screening and all that happening in school. So if the modalities can be put in place, I think they should just proceed. So
quite a number of elder statesmen are canvassing for power to move to the south, especially for 2023 coming up. So some are saying she goes to the southeast. That's people like Clark, Nkanga, Babatokwe, and His Royal Majesty Luke are saying that power should shift to southeast, while others are saying it should go to south. That's Dambazal, Babatokwe, and others are insisting. And since our former president has he has one term left, right? So that's supposed to be a possibility that Jonathan might be contesting, but we don't know if he's indeed interested. Moving on to the Nigerian Tribune, Air Force reveals last 6 hours of Arotile's life. Serap writes Buhari, 6 presidential panel to probe alleged corruption in NDDC. Location of 36 truck parks in Apapa causing airport congestion, says NPA. FG may inherit in unrecovered AMCON debts. Kidnappers abduct policewoman, daughter, 4 others in Kaduna. Army bandits in bloody clash in Katsina. Distrust as 3,000 delegates pick Undo APC governorship candidate. And Foreign Affairs Minister tests positive for COVID-19. Okay, which story are we taking?
I want to take the story of the AMCON debts. If we analyze let me just start by establishing the story before giving my opinion. The managing director of the Asset Management Corporation of Nigeria, AMCON, Mr. Ahmed Kuru, stated that over the weekend, if the sun sets, which I didn't understand, on this debt, which is debt that were recovered, the government paid for this debt in the hope that they don't want the company to die out. If the companies don't pay for their debt, then Nigeria now, the federal government now owns this debt. What that means, according to him, is that the federal government will use taxpayers' money, Nigerians' money, to pay for the excesses and mismanagement of a few Nigerians. This is a whole lot of money, and he's of the opinion that it shouldn't be. He also mentioned the fact that this is over 5 trillion naira that recalcitrant debtors have not paid back. I wish there are other ways we can handle this rather than using our money to pay for mismanagement by a few executive and managing directors. Another story I wanted to take was the story of what's going on in... Sarah? No, what's going on in Apapa.
Yes, okay,
because the DG of NPA, Adiza Bala Usman, mentioned that when she was giving a press release that concerning Apapa, there are 36 truck parks within Apapa, and that there is no business. Apapa is already heavily congested with the ports. They shouldn't have given license to truck parks to have locations within Apapa, and that is not within Apapa. So she appeals to the state governor to relocate those parks, because that would ease that truck parks should be outside the states or in the outskirts of the states, not within Apapa. You can't have trucks moving. They should also investigate
relocation and licensing of terminals in other areas, because on the old Ojo Road axis we have over 20.
Yes.
In my area, I have to greet 4 before I get into the express. And the activities can be life-threatening. You can be stuck in traffic forever because of the activities. So I think licensing them and checking on their operations monthly or daily, in fact. Apart from the Lagos State, the MPA, because it was the MPA that came to investigate the activities of the one in front of me. So I think they should
moving on to Daily Sun. Bloodbath in Katsina and Borno as bandits kill 16 soldiers in Katsina and troops kill Boko Haram imam. Nyma tests positive for COVID-19. It is 1.5 billion naira NDDC probe reps rule out new panel. Arotile Air Force unveils killer driver. So there was a bloodbath in Katsina, and interestingly, quite a number of high-ranking officers were killed. So there was a major that died, a captain, and another high-ranking officer who were killed amongst the 16 that died and during this bandits attack. They actually it was totally it was an attack that happened at night, and it caught them unawares, and the loss of 16 of their good gallant officers.
Our heart goes out to all the soldiers.
Their soul rest
May their soul rest in peace, and may our government do better to help with the insecurity challenges. It's happening everywhere, and we just keep hearing numbers and we just move on. But these are human beings. These are people's children, people's husbands, people's lovers.
Okay, we have to wrap up. Unfortunately, that's all we can take. All right, let's go on a break now. When we come back, we'll discuss proposed partial closure of the third Mainland Bridge. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back. Welcome back to Your View.
Thanks for staying with us. So the traffic gridlock in Lagos may get worse as the federal government is set to partially close down the third Mainland Bridge from this Friday, June 24th, for not 1, not 2, not 3, but 6 months. According to Olukayode Popola, the federal controller of works in Lagos, we want to maintain our third Mainland Bridge. So they're going to begin maintenance works on it. Everything being expected for the repairs of the bridge arrived the country. That is why they must repair it now, according to him. Joining us on the show is the Lagos State Commissioner for Transportation, Dr. Frederic Oladehinde. Good morning, sir. Are you there?
Good morning. Yes, I'm here.
Good to have you on the show today. Now, obviously, Third Mainland Bridge is obviously one of the main access we have to the island. What are the options available, especially considering the fact that many of these roads are immotorable?
Thank you for that very important question. There are about 10 options which we are making more available. Even after yesterday, we went around the whole of Lagos to make sure that these roads are in good condition. So the first one is, for example, when you're coming from the island, so Kato Bridge will be available to you, Eko Bridge will be available to you. Apart from that, coming from Kato Bridge, you'll be able to access Ido all the way to Winigbo, and then to Murtala Mohammed Way, to Jibo, and then to Ikorodu Road, and then you can then access where you need to go. On the other side, which is the Eko Bridge, so coming from Kato Bridge, you can go to Ijora Lopa. You can then access Eko Bridge, Ojuelegba Bridge, Ikorodu Road, and then go to wherever you're going. But what is important is to mention that the third Mainland Bridge is a partial closure, it's not a total closure. So on the 24th of July, the carriageway from the island, that is coming from Osborne, all the way to, that's Owuroshoki. And then, but those coming from the mainland all the way to the island will still have until 12 o'clock. So between 12 o'clock and 1 o'clock, we would allow the bridge to be clear, and then we then switch over so that those coming from the island going towards Owuroshoki and then to the mainland would now be able to access that section of the carriageway from 1 o'clock all the way to 12 midnight. So it's a partial closure and it's not a total closure.
So I've passed through the options, the Ido and trying to get into Jibowu. And I understand that it's motorable. However, when people are coming in from the size of a third Mainland Bridge, which is like will take 4 lanes at the same time, and you're now having to switch into where essentially it's like a two-way drive all through, the narrowing of the road will lead to traffic congestion. That's undeniable. What are the plans made by the Ministry of Transportation in Lagos State to reduce the hardship that will be on Lagosians? Lagos already normally has a lot of traffic. So aside from this alternative, what are you doing, sir?
Okay, let me just correct you there. So for those going to the island, you will still have 4 lanes. We're not reducing it to 2 lanes. What we're saying is that those going on the less busy carriageway have to find alternative. So we're not reducing the number of lanes for the busy section, going to the island in the morning and then coming back in the evening. Apart from the 10 options, which are very, I mean, we rolled out yesterday, we also have water transport available, so we ramped up the number of vessels that goes from Ikorodu, as well as Ibaje, which is Bariga, to the island. Okay. We have also increased the number of buses that the Lagos Bus Services Limited would be operating. Only last week, the governor approved that LBSL can now use the BRT corridor, so we would use the BRT corridor along Ikorodu Road, which would be able to take people to the island as quickly as possible. And we're providing this option just to make sure that people can drop their cars and access public transport and then get to the island as quickly as possible. So public transport options are available. And if you want to drive your cars, obviously, Carter Bridge is available, Eco Bridge, and I just mentioned Murtala Mohammed Way. And then there are other options. I mean, if you understand Lagos very well, so taking Costain, connecting Laka Bridge, right, etc. So there are many options that are available to people to access the island. Right. So and what we have done is to make all of them portable so that people can have options to take any of these routes.
Okay. All right. Based on experience, one of the things that can, usually alter traffic in someone's day is the cause of some accidents, falling tankers, falling containers on our major roads. I have failed to make it to the show several times because response to such accidents take a lot of time. So what plans do you have along the alternatives that you've mentioned now, such that if any of such were to happen, is we immediately removed and traffic can, people can resume traveling to their places on the island or off the island?
Let me add to that, because case in point, I think it was a couple of days last week, there was something that a tanker fell off at Kara Bridge, and then there was some kind of congestion in the Ikorodu Road. We were told that something happened. Was it Costain? Some kind of, there was issued an accident, and then there was a bad road. So when that's Lagos State for you. When those things happen in those 3 major points, it causes issues, gridlock. So what are you doing to ensure, to avert that?
Okay, first of all, we have put together a 600-man team, the task force team, to ensure that traffic moves around in Lagos. And LASMA has also embarked on buying some more tow trucks. We are also partnering with LASTEMA to put the tow trucks at strategic positions so that when we have tankers or containers on the road, we're able to move them as quickly as possible. We're also appealing to truck drivers not to come into Lagos at this point in time unless you have business in Lagos. So very soon we're going to be decongesting that Eco Bridge, that section that goes to Apapa, making sure that tankers do not park on the road, and so that we can clean up that road and clear it as soon as possible. We started that process yesterday. We are discussing with MPA, discussing with the union of the tanker drivers to make sure that they cooperate with Lagos State, especially within the six-month period that we need the road to be cleared. So there's a lot of things that we're putting in place to make sure that we are able to attend to accidents as quickly as possible, and then make sure that unless you have business in Lagos, you have no business coming into Lagos with your truck.
So the Apapa-Oworo-Shoki Expressway could also be an alternative, but it's presently under construction. So you get to certain areas of that road and you have to, deviate. So this morning, fortunately, compared to June 2nd when I was on the show last, they've constructed all the way to Anthony. And, I had to veer off back into Ikorodu Road. How quick can they complete that road? Because, it will be a major relief to people using that maybe as an alternative to get to the island through Ikorodu Road.
Well, there are quite a number of construction going on in Lagos right now, and it's just unfortunate that the Eco Bridge, I'll come to the Apapa Bridge, Eco Bridge is just one of them. But federal government, they're putting everything, they're doing everything possible to ensure that they can wrap up the Apapa Oshodi Bridge. I think one section of it was opened this morning, which allowed traffic to flow freely, but we want to finish that. And I believe that Anthony section will be finished very soon. Okay. So we want to, that's a priority for us to finish so that we can release traffic onto the other carriageways, etc. Also, just to mention, I know you mentioned that also that Eco Bridge is shut down, some part of it is shut down. The contractor moved to site. We were there yesterday, and within 2 months, maximum 2.5 months, they will finish that section. So that section will be on before we complete the 3 months of one side, Third Mainland Bridge, before we move to the other side of Third Mainland Bridge. So we're doing everything possible to ensure that all the construction works are wrapped up.
Okay, we're going to go on a quick break. When we come back, we'll continue this conversation with you. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back. Welcome back to Your View.
Thanks for staying with us. So we still have the Commissioner for Transportation, Dr. Frederic Oladehinde. Dr. had a question.
Yes. So when the news broke on Twitter, people were now asking that how come we're having the repairs done now when we had lockdown for a period of time and this didn't take place during the lockdown? Now, I got the answer from Lagos State, but I want you to repeat the answer so that those that are watching the show now who probably have that same mindset that why did Lagos State not fix this Third Mainland Bridge during the lockdown where there was no traffic on the road? Can you please tell them why you're just fixing it now?
Okay, that's a very interesting question that keeps coming back. So when we had COVID, nobody understood, the guidelines around COVID. And also remember that the people that we're sending to the field to fix the road are also human beings. So we needed to understand the evolution of COVID and then how we then structure the guidelines around that. So it was important to keep everybody aware because our number one priority is to make sure that everybody is safe and that we do not lose anybody. So we do not want to lose anybody at the expense of, not trying to understand how COVID would evolve and then just risking people's life. So we needed to understand, develop guidelines around COVID before we send people out. And also there was an instruction from the federal government also alluding to the fact that we needed to understand that, and then we then draft a guideline around that before we put people out there. And then secondly, let's understand that lockdown period was only a month. This maintenance is about 6 months. So irrespective, we will have still gone past and people will have still been affected.
All right, let me ask this question. One will expect that because of these 6 months maintenance that is about to be carried out, you would want the Nigerians to use public transportation instead of putting their cars on the road. But our worry of taking public transportation is the fact that we're not even sure of the congestion when you get to the bus stops. How is it safe with the COVID out there? Are there wash hand stations? Are there places? Do I feel comfortable taking the public transportation? How many buses are actually out there? Do we still have buses at the ports? So what has your commission done to ensure, your ministry done to ensure that we have enough buses and the buses are safe for those of us that drive cars to use this public transportation?
Thank you for that question. So what we have done, and that's why we're going through what we call the bus reform program, where we're trying to bring in, luxurious buses that are comfortable, buses that have air conditions, etc., which is spacious for people to sit. And you will see that LBSL has, they've deployed about 200. The Lagos State government has just released about 550, which will be deployed very soon. So apart from that, we are also implementing what we call the intelligent transport system. So there's a timetable where you know when the next bus is going to come. Now, in terms of congestion, etc., this is where I need to let the people, I mean, we need to talk to our people and talk to ourselves. If you do not have any business being out there, you need to stay at home. You will notice that this is still a partial lockdown. Not everybody has gone back to work. And this is intentional, just to make sure that we can control the amount of people that are outside. And so if people simply do what they have to do and do not go out unless they have to go out, we'll be able to manage the crowd. But in terms of managing what is out there, we're providing bus shelters, the IT system is in place, and we're providing more buses. Even when you go to our water transport station, you will see that the terminals are even more, their waiting areas, etc., just to make public transport more affordable and more attractive to people.
Okay, that's good news, but there's still a lot of areas where these buses have not even been, you know, people can't even imagine what they look like because they don't see them. And I'm speaking for the Badagry Expressway axis of town now. What you see in the buses is that the buses are packed full, and people usually don't wear their face mask under this condition that we're in now. What are you doing to enforce on the side of the commercial operators, the commercial bus operators, to ensure that, you know, they conform with the rules on ground? Because if you're taking people will come in, and most people, of course, you know, we need to enforce on people's side. But the commercial drivers, what are you doing, partnering with the NURT? And, you know, and I'm aware, because I have investigated personally, that the NURT is aware of these operations of their people.
Yeah, that's correct. So we had a stakeholder meeting with NURTW. We also had stakeholder meetings with other operators. And so we have a task force team out there, which comprises of NASMA, VIO, we have FRC that join on the major expressways, and then we have the park monitoring committee that go around ensuring that people wear face masks. There's sanitizers, temperature reader, as well as wash hand basins in all motor parks. You will see that we're beginning to deploy those in most of our motor parks right now, and so we will continue to enforce. We've arrested a lot of people, but you know, when you arrest these people, they come back and say, well, government is not being fair, etc. But we will continue to do what we have to do. So we have all these enforcement agents going around ensuring that people wear face masks, and then people keep to high hygiene standards. And one thing, let me just mention this. It's also important to mention that people have to take personal responsibility for safety. So it's not just enough for government to be enforcing, but people ought to know that they have to keep themselves safe. So they have to, when they're going out, they have to ensure that they have their face mask. They have to ensure that they have their sanitizers, etc. So I think it goes both ways. In
your conversation with the stakeholders, did you discuss issues of fares? Because many of these will take opportunities like these to increase the transportation fares, and people will have it difficult to pay the high fees that might be charging during this period.
Yes, we did. But you see, this is where you have to make the hard decisions. So we've reduced the capacity of all buses, so they're taking about 60% capacity, etc. So in some cases, someone has to pay for the difference. In as much as we try to ensure that they don't increase the fares just around Lagos, it has become necessary to increase in some areas, and that's the job cover for that little shortfall. But I mean, we have our regulators working with the operators in such a way that even if there's any increase, that increase is still affordable. So I think we have to bite the bullet and say it's either we have a service that moves people around, or we don't have a service at all, because the operator might go bust, etc. So we have to balance the situation.
Okay. May I implore, sir, that, you know, special focus is placed on the commercial operators at the trade fair market in Amodofi. Thank you, sir.
Sure, I'll take it on board.
All right, that's all we can take. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us this morning. And we'll probably still call you back, because this is Lagos. We might have to bring you back sometime early next week, because after the Friday shutdown, we can be almost certain of serious congestion. So we'll see, we'll notice how it is, and we'll have to call you back maybe midweek next week to help us see what other updates you might have for us. Thank you very much, sir.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back. Welcome back to Your View.
Thanks for staying with us. So, security breach is synonymous, obviously, with traffic gridlock. For an exercise of this magnitude, as you can tell. So the question is, how prepared is the police to maintain law and order, especially during this period of lockdown for 6 months, concerning the fact that they're going to close down Third Mainland Bridge? Many Nigerians are already saying that, let's just say 2020 has been locked down. Let's just stay. Let's just lock down 2020 because now with this January to now, we didn't have a lot of movement. Now the Third Mainland Bridge is being locked down partially. And obviously, so if you don't really need to be on the road, just stay home till December.
Stay at home.
Now back to this one now. It's the symbiotic one. So we have a series of meetings together. We have strategized. So with the Lagos State Ministry of Works, so which palliatives are being carried out now, which I provided security for them. Lagos State Ministry of Transportation, so all the agencies that are involved in traffic management. As for the police, being the leading agent in internal security. So we are already now what we call operational order. And we are deploying more motorbikes because you know that once there is traffic now, there may likely be, especially when it rains. So that's why the Lagos State government is doing so many palliatives on the alternative routes. So with the palliatives on the alternative routes being carried out, potholes being filled up now, and gutters being evacuated of debris, so to reduce the impact of flood, definitely traffic will move than we expected. So for the police, we have enough security. Like what I did when I came in now, I'm mobilizing men from all the offices, so that we pin down the personnel we have in office now, we put them on the road, so as to make sure that where there is unavoidable traffic, the men will be there to give members of the public security, so that they know that while in traffic, their lives and property are secure.
Okay, so, sir, on July 4th, on my way to the hospital the day before my father passed, I was stuck in traffic on the Apapa-Woro Oshodi Express at Oshodi, in front of the Mikio area. And just after us his last month, it was raining and we were being robbed in traffic. These boys had a field day, nobody, no presence. I wish I had your number, I would have called you personally. But even me couldn't bring out my phone. And just after they were done, I saw Lasma. So what are you doing, really? Something that, you know, will reassure Lagosians that, you know, your men are there. I mean, not just deploying, but supervising and ensuring that part-time they are where they are saying they are.
They are going to be there. You know, there have been a series of complaints about Oshodi. That is coming from Apakun,
yes.
Oshodi. And
yes.
now extending
and all the way onto Mushi as well.
But now we have deployed physically there. In fact, I've moved all the DPOs out today. So now, since that one for the past week, there has never been any single complaint. Rather, we have succeeded in arresting.
No, we couldn't complain. No. Even I didn't complain of this one I'm just mentioning. So
some people complain.
Robberies happened there, and your men are missing.
So once you have that one now, because of this special assignment that we are having now, so we now know the alternative routes. We have mapped out the strategies. So the DPOs in charge of those areas, so the operational officers is in charge of the alternative routes. So to Mainland Bridge. You know, Lagos, because of the peculiarity. So once there's a little breakdown now, you see so many effects coming up. And equally to, we are partnered now with the tow vehicle operators. They have an association. So that any vehicle that breaks down, we still evacuate to avoid and to reduce any traffic logjam.
Right.
That's what we caught.
Okay.
So prayerfully now, we are going to devote more time for the traffic management and security in traffic.
All right, thank you.
Sir, I worry when I hear deployment of police officers on the road. I'm supposed to feel secure, but I'm worried. My worry is that a lot of times I've seen traffic specifically caused by traffic officials, police officers who stop to check in the middle of the road. the stop and search and stop and check and validating papers in the middle of the road in Ogudu, if you're turning in towards Ogudu, from like the Oworonshoki Expressway, if you're turning towards Ogudu, the reason there's traffic there is only because there's a police station by that junction, and people, the police officers will come outside and stop vehicles back. They would stop entirely the road. So sometimes the traffic, you get there and realize, oh, it's policemen that are causing traffic. What are you doing to sensitize the policemen to not do this style of stop and check when we already know there'll be congestions on many roads due to the partial blockage of 3rd Mainland Bridge?
So we continue to do that because searching for particulars of vehicles is not part of any directive. No, it's not the directive.
Thank you,
of
sir.
the General Police. So we don't. It's when we are doing Operation Velvet that we check particulars.
Please repeat it again, sir.
Is,
Please repeat it again, because I thought that that's like the everyday assignment of police officers.
We don't. And I've told my men, I keep on now, to happy news on all the area commanders, DPOs, that so checking particulars is not so being carried out now. When we are carrying out checking of particulars now, we have what we call Operation Velvet. We are going to announce at least a week in advance to all motorists now in Lagos on all the roads. That's the police policy. That so time you are going to check vehicle particulars. So everybody should move out with their vehicle particulars. But for now, what you are doing is just stop and search. And the procedure is any vehicle that is suspected, the occupants now, they pull off the road entirely, completely off the road. You don't have to create any traffic backlog.
Sir, is this the time for stop and search?
Commissioner,
is this the time for stop and search? Because I don't look suspicious, but I'm always stopped.
Wow.
So, and I answer them. And I know this is done to every other person randomly. And I want to respect my police officers, but if they're just looking and they stop, when people, their activities and this stopping is causing traffic, shouldn't we suspend stop and search for the traffic challenges?
For the pandemic,
No, for this period now, for this period that you're having now, for this alternative route that you're having now, from now to January now, on those routes. So we are going to get that one minimized because stop and search is part of security strategy. So we can't not completely. But because of this, so we limit to the time so that it's not going to affect traffic management and traffic movement.
All right.
Okay. How do you now deal with extortion during this pandemic when stop and search has been taken over selfishly by some of your officers? Do you get such reports and how do you do to deal with them?
No, what you do is that once you realize that last week, so where some of our men went out now as operational arms, they went out of their professional acts now that money was extorted, the complaint got to us, we got them arrested now, recovered the money and returned it to the owner. And right now they are facing internal disciplinary work. About a month ago now, the similar thing was done. So the issue of extortion now, of corruption on the road, is what we address every day. Okay. But so many DPOs now have been queried for lack of effective supervision of their men. So why doing all this? When there's any complaint about that now, we keep on dealing with them as they come. And every lecture that we hold, we keep on reminding them that it is completely against the policy of the general police. So for police officers now doing that, and to the fundamental human rights of members of the public.
We have to run.
On that. Once there are infractions.
Hello, sir. We have to run up, but I do have...
indulge and to serve deterrent to others.
Right. Now, this issue of face mask, we see videos where police officers are actually stopping you because you're not wearing a face mask. Is that part of their call of duty?
Now it's part, because face mask, putting on face mask now has been meant to be a law in the country, both at the state and the federal level. Everything is towards reducing the COVID-19 pandemic. So the face mask is compulsory, it's not mandatory. It's now against the law for anybody to move in public without putting on a face mask.
All right, point taken.
So it has been declared as a law, and that's why they're doing that. And we keep on addressing and keep on doing advocacy.
All right.
So what they are doing now is a persuasive arrest because it is for the human rights and the life of members of the public.
Thank you very much, sir. We have to run off now, but definitely, if we have any updates, we'll definitely call you again next week once this partial close down starts. Okay, thank you. We're going to be speaking with the Commissioner of Police, Lagos State, Hakeem Olusegun Odumosun. Let's go on a break. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back. Welcome back to Your View.
Thanks for staying with us. So this last segment, we'd like to dedicate it to our colleague, Nyma Akashat-Zibiri, and that's because she was tested positive for COVID-19 many weeks back. And that's why she had to step aside from the show. But it's always important to hear the actual facts. So we hear different stories from outside. But now that one of us had COVID, and now she has been certified free of COVID by the Lagos State government, and she has evidence to prove it, it's important that we speak to her and understand what her experience was like, so we can learn from it. So, Nyma, I'll give you the floor to tell us from start as much as you can. I'll try to interject where I need to, but I'll give you the floor to tell us exactly your experience.
Okay. So I was contact traced on the 3rd of June, and I was asked to come to the IDH alongside my husband because he tested positive to COVID. And we went there with our children, and that was a big mistake that I made because I'd assumed, based on what we read every day, that, you know, all the works have been put in place. There must be an area for children, there must be an area for adults, and everything was put in place. So, and you know my usual style, you know, once I got the call in June, and I was okay. I got there, you can't drive in, and I have kids, 7 and 3-year-olds in the car. How do I walk them in? We had to walk to the test centers with children. The security may have eyes, but they refused to understand. I even brought out my ID card and tried to talk to them that, what about my children? They said, no problem. So I assumed that they must have a facility within the one in Yaba for children. So my trauma started when I saw my kids touching everything, mixing with people. I was unable to hold this one down, this one wanted water, the other one wanted to eat in that setting that was totally disorganized for me because the health workers, and not, I can't blame them. Stay away from everybody. You're a suspect, whether you know you've come in for a test. I didn't have any symptoms. I came in because I was stressed and I wanted to know what it felt like. But being with my kids, I didn't find it funny at all. Right. After about an hour, we're still there, and the kids, I'm struggling to hold one, we're struggling to hold the other.
You mentioned the fact that they said they had a number, they had to wait until the number was complete before they started testing.
We needed to be up to 40 that first day
together for
us to have testing, so I had to wait. So I got there early for the second because they said they were done with the morning shift, this afternoon shift, and I waited for that number to be complete before they even started to attend to us, to take our information, talk less of testing us. So I just imagined if they didn't have that number, would they not have tested us within time? And then there were no exceptions. They needed to manage the kits that they had. So until they wear their kits, they are not going to attend to you. Right. So my kids, no exception. No, okay, these children come to this side. Nothing. No, there's nothing. Okay. So after a while, I saw a woman packed in her car with her own children in front of me while we're still standing. I'm still struggling to hold one or the other. So I raised an alarm. I got really, apprehensive, and I started to talk out. So one of them heard my voice because all of us were in masks, so they didn't know who was who. When they heard my voice, one person said, are you Nyma? And I said, I'm Nyma. And look at what you're exposing my kids to. But thankfully, they tested negative, the 2 children. Okay. But myself and my husband tested positive.
So when you got the results?
The issue for me is when the result came.
Okay.
Because
how long did it take?
9 days. 9 whole days to come. So if I had, the normal Nigerian disbelief and distrust of the government and the system, I would have just continued to miss. I could even have come to work. I didn't have a test result in 9 days, but I just felt I've gone for a test, and if the test comes in positive or negative, let me just stop working. So the problem for me was when my husband was called, because he was also contact traced to somebody who had tested positive, and I came in with him. We had packed his things.
To go to the ID.
The system is that, they will be isolated. So I packed his things. I told him, take things that, you're not bringing back home. We packed all of that. And we got there, and they said, viral level is low, viral level is high kind of arrangement. So take him back home. I said, okay, we live in a 1-room apartment. All of us were in 1 room. What am I supposed to do? And the doctor joked and said, Madam, even if it's 1 room, use nylon to section off an area and isolate him there. It sounded funny And as a Muslim, I just kept doing the inna lillahi wa inna ilaihi raji'un, that no matter what, we'll pass through this together. And we went back home. But then, unknown to them, I had been treating malaria on my husband. So treating symptom per symptom. And to God who made me, this man was sick. So that morning, he would purge, he would be weak, crawling on his bare hands. And I was treating with ORS, all the kids' drugs, because I have a first aid corner in the house, was what I was using. That was why he was able to drive us there. So is it until he's lying down on the ground that they would have admitted him?
So they should have got him a bed, at least.
Now,
what did you do with the children?
Home.
Did you take them to grandma's house? Or what was the plan? They were home?
Because I was afraid that, the result of the children too would come in positive.
Okay.
So the expectation was, take the children out of the house. No, I said all of us have been exposed, because that was the mentality. I even believed I've been exposed, no communication with anybody. So I locked everybody in.
Okay.
So we separated the children from us, and everybody, two of us had nose mask within the house to at least reduce spread. But symptom per symptom, I had to resort to what I believed in. And every African is doing it.
Like what?
Traditional methods. So
what did you do?
Normally, my daily routine is lime, lemon, or lemon, turmeric, and lime, lemon, ginger, and garlic. I do that every morning, and you can smell it off me if you come close. But I had to increase it. I added turmeric to it. I added whatever I could. I ordered for carrots. My neighbors, yellow, oh Lord, blessing. I can't thank you enough. We're constantly going shopping and sourcing whatever I needed. My mother bought me a bag full of agbo and all the works. I cooked every single day, every 2 days, because I believe herbs don't have that long life. Every 2 days, I threw out the agbo, and I did that. That was basically what we did. I did steaming. I did that.
For him?
Yes, in fact, I did it 3 times a day.
So when you found out your children were negative, what happened to them? How did you take care of them? Were they still in the house?
I just put them on vitamin C and separated their room till their fathers passed 14 days.
But you didn't go sick? You didn't?
No, I didn't fall sick. But I had post-COVID symptoms, which was weaknesses. I would have this fatigue. In fact, I didn't have it. It didn't take long to set in. Maybe because from the stress of having to nurse him. It was immediately, there was a particular night, because I would watch his temperature go up and come back down at night. And while I was watching him, I just broke down there. I slept like a log. And he was now watching me. So one of those days I felt that I failed, but it was like I was worried and I did not open my eyes.
That was assigned to both of you, even though they let you go home.
God bless her. Dr. Fadari was the one who called him on his result, and she would call, or he would call her in between every other day to see how we were doing. So when he was in his weakest and everything, she used to tell him, try and go out. Then he had a phobia for mixing with people for a while. He didn't want to see people. He didn't want to go. He didn't want to say anything. Just go out for the early morning sun and come back. My symptom was that I lost my sense of smell. And I got it back within a week. But he was, just refused to go out. He didn't lose anything.
Something. When you were explaining to the doctors that he wasn't feeling fine, did they not think that they should bring him into
He was standing in front of them, so they didn't know.
No, I'm saying that when you went back home and you were talking to this doctor you were giving back and forth information, when you said, he's feeling weak, did they just say continue with vitamin C?
No, she could confirm what stage he was in and confirm what symptom was to be for that day. So she would ask me, has he taken vitamin C? It will be fine. But, when it gets to the height of it, to get it quick, I have to serve him everything hot all through the week. And she had advised, you should just be on tea. So tea, it's kuku agbo. Do you understand? So for me, I just continue to do those herbal therapies I believed in. And the surprising thing, because I didn't make mine, I had a webinar in between the isolation period at home that had been scheduled on rape, I think 2 of them. And I had the other one full of lawyers. And I said I tested positive to COVID, and that's why I'm staying off the show. People would like to create a stigma around such a thing. Is what amazes me. In fact, when people die of it now, they are double traumatized because the way people act, the same people who would not protect or prevent it themselves, people who don't even have a routine. In my house before COVID, long before February, you can't come in. I don't take visitors. You have to wash your hands before you go upstairs. So you can imagine the guilt.
So I knew you were
that work.
Very careful.
My black seed is usually, that's a normal therapy. My black seed oil and all that, I continued with it.
How's your husband doing now?
Very, very well.
He's
very
fine.
well.
He recovered fully.
Very well, very well. But we're presently traumatized because of the loss of my dad, just as I was getting ready to resume work anyway. And that, for me, he couldn't deal with it because he saw me at my weakest.
It don't want you to get emotional.
No.
I know it's a difficult period
It is.
for you. But thank you for
fine,
sharing.
we're fine.
I'll take you. I'll let you get a breather. But the reason why I wanted to put Nyma on the spot was because we wanted to get the facts, especially the fact that many people are not getting tested. We're having issues with enough tests, and she was even claiming that she believes that lots of Nigerians have COVID, but many of them are not coming forward, especially because of the capacity that I even saw. Do they have the capacity to test
On
at the IDH?
On the 24th of June, I went back for a test because I insisted if I don't have a test result, I won't resume work, even though I had passed the 21 days at the time. And the crowd was crazy. And while we were all finding places to stand because people were not, and the seating capacity at the test center is, they just tell you 2 people per seat. And I don't feel it's wide enough. That day when I got there, they had not cleaned. My children were picking off sweets from the seat. So, so those kind of things can really run a person crazy. And that spacing is not enough. On the second day, it was worse. The numbers keeps doubling, tripling, in fact. What amazed me the most was the number of people who called after I disclosed my status on webinar and to some family members, friends, and everybody. A few, just a number of them, admitted that they felt, they've lost their sense of smell. So what are you using? What are you doing? A lot of them would just call, hey, what are you using?
So it's possible that they're also treating it.
And the market in front of me, when they close in the evening, I see the number of people passing through my front of me at my house to their houses. All of them carrying bags, not wearing masks, standing very close and gisting. So after my father passed and some of my friends came to visit, we're just having a conversation. They said, Madam, I beg, there's nothing like that. It's not today that we have been having catarrh that blocks the smell. And
let me pause you. I have a call from Kaduna. Good morning. Are you there?
Yes, I'm there, Morai.
Thanks for calling. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, first, happy birthday in arrears. I missed to call in and send my shout-outs to you. Secondly, Sister Nyma, alhamdulillah, you're back again. We truly missed you, and we thank Almighty Allah for you surviving this and your family, hopefully. And we pray that Almighty Allah will continue to protect you all and the crew of your view. I'm a die-hard fan. I've been with you ladies for the past 7 years, so
thank you so much.
It was very heartbreaking when I heard that she wasn't feeling well.
Right.
But I didn't get to know that she was suffering from COVID. So alhamdulillah, it's a good thing seeing you here. We thank Allah that you're healthy, you're alive. May Almighty Allah continue to protect each and every one of us and you ladies all.
Thank you so much. Sweet.
Thank you, sir. One says, interesting to hear about Nyma's COVID-19 experience. May God preserve the healing of you and your family. Yomira says, welcome back, Nyma. Toby Martin says, please, what are the symptoms you had and treated on the treatment they gave you? Is it the same as malaria? Bilikis Mafe says, alhamdulillah, you and your husband are healed. People are welcoming you back over and over again.
What are the symptoms? Because they say sense of smell, they say you start coughing, you start sneezing.
My only symptom was the loss of sense of smell. I was never feverish. I never had it.
So
you put an infrared thermometer in front of me and it will read normal. Because I never had the temperature. Nothing.
Right.
Just that, they could pick up the virus from my samples, that's all. But post-treating my husband, there was this constant fatigue. And it worried me when I couldn't attend to my dad when I wanted to be with him. So I'm with him and I'm dozing. I'm constantly struggling to snap out of it.
And you were tired.
I was tired. And for fear of losing him anyway in the state he was, I thought, I couldn't eat. So maybe that added to the weakness again. But
how about your husband's symptoms? Since he was
all
symptomatic?
Symptoms are fine now. He's recovering.
No, as in, what was the symptoms he had?
Oh, yeah. He had fever. He constantly had fever back and forth. He was weak all through. He could hardly get up. And, sometimes he would be choking. He would lose his, have difficulty breathing. Yeah. And he'd be saying, I can't breathe. So my solution, I don't know what to do.
So you steam for him?
Put a steamer under him, put everything, put the garlic in excesses. And yes, I'll have him there in 15 minutes. I'll take it out. Sometimes I'll join him in. I'll just encourage him and I'll take it out. And he will sleep well. For every time I did it, he actually slept well.
Let me take this call from Hassan. Hassan, are you there from Lekki?
Good morning, all of you.
Good morning.
Nyma, my friend. I'm happy for you.
Yes. Thank you.
May God continue to protect you and your family.
Amen.
And may Almighty God continue to protect all Nigerians.
Amen.
You see, this COVID is real. It's very, very, see, this COVID is real. It's very, very real. Anybody that says COVID is not real is
deceiving himself.
May God help us.
Yeah.
Please, secondly, I would like to comment about the MD of MPA, the Commissioner for Transport Lagos State, and Commissioner of Police. The police in Lagos State are not just acting for particulars. They go beyond that. They intimidate people, they extort money. And I would like to call on Lagos State government to lift their curfew in the night. They should lift it. You are just creating.
Hello? Oh, we lost that call.
Yes. I called Nyma during the case, and I just kept wondering, how did she cope? Because Nyma doesn't have a maid. I just want to celebrate Nyma. I'm thanking God for your life. I'm happy that you survived. But like, I just want to celebrate you. Like, you did a very, very good job on your own without help. And you were nursing a sick.
I didn't do it on my own.
Yeah, you had help, but like you were alone nursing a sick.
But did your husband have underlying issues? Did he have any
No, he doesn't have any underlying
his immune system was able to fight it, obviously.
Yes, he was able to fight it. But you know, the most scary part is that shortness of breath. When that happens, I'm just looking, I'm angry with him, number one. I'm always telling him, I'm angry, try it.
Try and breathe.
What is this? Breathe now. Is it not you? So I'm shouting that, please, so you have to breathe. And then I bring something, and then he's saying, I'm not using that. Oh, bieda. He not use what? Go under it and use it, because, you know, I just don't want to be mourning as at the time. But Allah wills differently, alhamdulillah. And, you know, one funny thing I wanted to talk about was the increment in the cost of herbs at the time. So lemongrass became scarce. And if you go to the spot, I usually would send my neighbors, they would come and drop it at the house. They would say, we can't find it. So who were buying out all the herbs? Who bought out all the cola nuts? You know, I believe personally that we probably had surpassed the number that, you know, other countries had at this time, especially Lagos.
Nyma, we have to run.
But that we had an amazing, maybe our diet or our lifestyle, something must have worked for us in Africa.
Nyma, we have to run, but I'd like you to give a passing message to those who are out there today are saying COVID is not real. Just in one sentence, what would you tell them? Okay, so COVID is very, very real. I worked with my husband. I had a friend who could not walk through his own at home. He had to be on ventilators in the hospital at the Gwagwalada Isolation Center in Abuja, and I didn't even know. By the time I found out, it was just getting to, you know, recovery. So it is very, very real. And if you would just try to find out from people what they've been through, it is not malaria. There are two different. My husband even had gotten a malaria drug. I didn't treat malaria at all. I just lost my sense of smell. And I probably, the highest thing I did was a drug to decongest my nasal cavity. Right. But it's very important that at this time, your face mask, there are no friends, no family members. We're still receiving mourners at the house, and you have to be on the mask. So you have to, and if it's possible, offend your neighbors, offend your family members, let them stay away from you at this time.
Protect yourself.
Right. You know? That's all we can take, unfortunately. We've run out of time. But thank you so much, Nyma, for sharing your story.
Thank you so much.
Because that's what we do here. We share our stories so we can help you make the right decisions in life. That's all we can take. See you tomorrow. Bye for now.